Hi everyone and welcome to Lipstick on a Rig. Today we're going to be making this awesome soap saver as part of our 2 skein challenge for Mother's Day. For this pattern you're going to need a size F or 5 crochet hook and then 2 different colors of yarn. To get started we are going to attach the yarn to our crochet hook and we are going to chain 12. And once you have your 12 chains, what we're going to do is we are going to place 1 single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch across for a total of 11 stitches. And when you get to the end of your row, instead of turning your work, what we're going to do is we are actually just going to turn it like this so that you're accessing these front loop stitches. And we're going to continue placing single crochets in those for another 11 stitches. So once you get to the end of your row, you should have a total of 22 stitches if you count them going all the way around. Now what we're going to do is place 1 slip stitch in that first single crochet stitch from our previous row. And we're going to chain 1. Then we're going to continue placing single crochets in each of these stitches across. And I'm actually going to use a stitch marker because I do get a little bit confused with where my chain stitch is. And so for me, I'm just going to grab a spare piece of yarn and just slide it through that chain 1 stitch. So go ahead and place single crochets going all the way around. And then when you get back around to your stitch marker, all you need to do is place a slip stitch in the top of that chain stitch. And I wanted to mention that I am skipping that slip stitch from the previous row there. So just kind of be mindful of that you're keeping 22 stitches on every row. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat that last row one more time. So we're going to chain 1 and then we're going to continue placing single crochets in each stitch across. And I'm just again going to use my stitch marker to mark that chain 1 stitch. And once you get to the end of your row, it should look something like this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place a slip stitch in the top of that chain 1 stitch there. But instead of yarning over with our old yarn, we're going to grab our new yarn color. And all we're going to do is just yarn over with it and pull through for a slip stitch. Like that. And then you're just going to want to hold your tail for another stitch or 2. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 2. And it might be a little bit confusing, but what we're actually going to do is we're going to place a double crochet in the stitch behind our chain 2 here. Obviously not the slip stitch, but we're going to go right into this stitch back here. We're going to place a double crochet. Then from here we're going to skip a stitch and then place a double crochet in the next stitch beside it. And then from here we're going to place a double crochet in that skipped stitch back here. And then again we're going to skip a stitch and then dive right into the stitch beside it, placing a double crochet. And then we're going to place a double crochet in the skip stitch. So go ahead and repeat this going all the way around the row. And when you get to the end of your row, it should look something like this. So now what you want to do is find that first stitch up here. And instead of yarning over with your old color, we're going to yarn over with our previous color. Pull through for a slip stitch. So from here, I'm just going to hold my tail in place and chain 1. And now because I didn't actually place my slip stitch in the top of that chain 2 stitch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an additional stitch, placing 1 single crochet inside of that same exact stitch. And that kind of makes up for it. From here, I'm just going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch going all the way around my row. And once I get to the end of my row, I'm just going to place 1 slip stitch in the top of that chain 1 stitch there. And I'm going to chain 1 and repeat it again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually repeat the steps that I made for these 3 rows of single crochets and then this sort of crisscross stitch here over and over and over again until I get this to the size that I would like. And I'll let you know when I get there. So from here I'm just going to place 2 more rows of single crochets and then the crisscross stitch and then alternate again. And as you can see, I went ahead and repeated that 4 times and I ended on the crisscross pattern here. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to slip stitch into that first stitch and then I'm going to tie off my yarn. And then in all of these areas where I changed out my yarn color, I'm just going to place a couple of knots in each of them. And once I have all of these tail's sort of tied off and hidden, then I'm just going to turn it inside out. And then to create the drawstring, I just went ahead and crocheted 40 chains. And I went ahead and just double tied the ends here and cut off the tails pretty short. And so now all I'm going to do is just weave this chain in and out of the holes that we created with this sort of cross stitch here. And then once you're done weaving that chain between these gaps here, then all you have to do is insert your bar of soap and then pull this chain tight so that it holds it in place. Please let me know in the comments below if you experienced any issues while you were trying to crochet this, and I will do my best to help you out. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, Lipstick on a Rig. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful, awesome day.